America, your state, and your community? Then you're in the right place. This is the Rutherford Magazine Show with host Mike Sparks. He and guests are here to talk local politics, history, faith, and freedom.
All right, this is the Rutherford Magazine Show. I'm your host, Mike Sparks. Got a big show tonight. I guess it's a little controversial, but it seems like everything today is controversial. Don't you think, Jackson? Life has just got to be controversial.
You know
what I mean? How's MTSU come along?
We're on spring break, so
yeah. But show tonight I've got U.S. Term Limit Southeast Director Aaron Duquette. Is that right, Aaron?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that French?
Well, actually, it's English, but it sounds French. Yeah.
Okay. And I've got some young ladies that recently led a rally up here. Hannah Faulkner, founder of Freedom Forever, and a couple other young ladies going to be with her. They'll join us about 5:20, and they led a little rally up here about the transgender issue. And I applaud these young 15-year-olds. Applaud these young ladies for taking a stand when so many adults seem to just be static and not be willing to raise their voice. And speaking of raising their voice, Aaron, you've been raising the point about U.S. term limits on Congress for how many years? You've been fighting this battle?
Well, I've been in the trenches here for a good 4 years. Really, I've been in the fight, I think, broader and with a broader speaking, probably about 6 years now.
6, wow.
So, yeah.
And so the bill, which just give us a good executive summary of what it does for listeners that may not know.
Yeah, sure. So Representative Chris Todd out of Jackson, he filed our resolution, which is HJR 5. It's a single topic Article 5 application for term limits on Congress only. And what basically this is a route to circumvent Congress to get the states to come together to propose what Congress wants, which is term limits on their own themselves.
Yeah. Well, a gentleman, Hannah's father, was just asking me out there in the foyer, what those terms would be, and explain how who decides what those terms would be if it ever was taken up in Congress.
Sure, yeah. We have an amendment proposal actually in Congress that Ted Cruz and Ralph Norman support, and that's an actual proposal because that's how it works there. But with the states convention route, basically you apply when 34 states pass a resolution like HJR 5, and 34 states have passed it, basically they have called for a convention to propose an amendment on the agreed upon topic. So in this case, it's just term limits on Congress. And once that happens, Congress is out of it.
Yeah.
So they sit in the sidelines, they watch it happen, and then the states will come together to finally take care of business because 82% of the people out there want to see this happen.
Yes, and that's what is polling as far as independents, Democrats, Republicans. How does that usually line up?
Really consistently, both nationwide polls and statewide polls, it's right around 80%. The most recent national poll is at 82%, and it's like 85% of Republicans, 81% of Democrats, and like 78% of independents.
I wonder if I've always been kind of curious about polling and outliers and statistics, but if Democrats are in power like they were, and then you flip Congress and you've got Republican majority, does the poll tend to change about term limits? I'm just curious.
No, it's consistent. Yeah, every year, every couple of years, there's a national poll done, and it's consistently right around 80%. Depending, doesn't matter who the administration is.
Yeah.
Republicans have failed in this issue for 30 plus years as well as Democrats.
Oh yes,
so,
definitely.
People are fed up with it.
Well, one of your fierce advocates is Knoxville County Mayor Glenn Jacobs. And how did he end up becoming the position of state chair on this issue?
Yeah, he's been pretty active in terms of the liberty movement, and he's very supportive of term limits, very outspoken about it, and so it was a really natural fit. We have a state chair program in all kinds of different states. I think we're up to something like 25 states where we have a state chair who acts like a state spokesperson locally to kind of promote the issue, and he's done a great job.
How did he get? I'm just curious because tell folks who that may not know who Glenn Jacobs is.
Yeah, Glenn Jacobs, if you grew up watching I guess it used to be WWF, and now it's WWE wrestling, he was the character Kane. And big, massive guy. He was the Undertaker's, brother in the storyline. And
brother-in-law.
He's a big guy. In the storyline, just like a brother, I guess, a long-lost brother.
Yeah, okay.
So he's imposing presence, that's for sure.
He really is. We had him. Did you come to the chili supper that we did, the big chili cook-off?
No, I missed it. I wanted to so bad.
You came last year, didn't you?
I actually had the chili made and in my
That's
fridge
right.
ready to go, and then I think a snowstorm happened.
Oh yeah, it did.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that.
I'm 0 for 2 on the Mike Sparks chili cook-off.
We do a chili cook-off every year, and and Mayor Glenn Jacobs was our spokesperson that night. Recently, and all the proceeds went to Brenda Bryant, African-American pastor in Laverne. Sadly, her church burned down about 5-6 years, and not one Bible, not one cross was tarnished whatsoever. All of them survived. But we raised about $2,500 for my friend Danny Brewer, who's often on WGNS. He ended up winning it. I was a little surprised. To be honest with you, I didn't know the guy could cook, but apparently could. But he made a good point about the chili cook-off. We've been doing it for years. The pot of chili was gone. Like everybody got that pot. He was like, the people have spoken, in other words. But Mayor Jacobs was just very very kind and compassionate. We had one gentleman there that was in a wheelchair, and I think it was a friend of Chuck Isbell, that guy's in a wheelchair, and I think is battling MS or something. And he had one of the belts he brought in, and Mayor Jacobs just spent so much time with him, signing autographs and signing pictures. It was very touching. So it showed me a very kindler, gentler side of this guy that is a 6'8" or something like that. He's a huge guy.
For a guy that I watched in my teenage years watching chokeslam in a steel cage, he's actually a very mild-mannered guy and very kind.
It's just kind of ironic, to see this dude that I had seen wrestling, and then to be so compassionate with the kids and signing things. But he's been on the air with us. Well, last time you were in here, he was on the radio.
I think he called in. I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, because he grew up Catholic, and I grew up Catholic too. But you think he's going to run for governor?
I don't know.
You hadn't heard anything?
I haven't. No.
Yeah. I think I bet he does. Mark Green sent me a book of the day, so it tells me he's planning to run for governor. You get these little hints. You kind of see things after a while. You've been in politics for a while. Well, do you really think though that term limits, just to play devil's advocate, do you really think it's going to make a difference in the brokenness that we see at the federal level?
Term limits themselves?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. It really, this becomes about, Mike, in Tennessee and in most states, very few states are actually full-time legislatures. Even the full-time legislatures, if you look under the roof, under the hood a little bit, and they actually have large breaks in between.
Yes.
But really, the states, by and large, they have citizen legislatures because you're part-time, you're not paid much. You have your own jobs that you need to hold down the fort with while you're serving at the state capitol. And so just built into the thing, we have very much a citizen legislature in Tennessee and elsewhere.
Yes.
Washington, D.C. is the polar opposite of that. And especially in the last 30 plus years, there's been an increasing trend toward careerism. It's the inverse. They spend most of their time in the Beltway, and then they make some token appearances back home, maybe kiss a couple babies, and then go back home. And that's not to besmirch any particular, members of Congress. Actually, the members of Congress from Tennessee happened to be actually very good on the issue of term limits. But this is a systemic problem, and having term limits in place is going to make a step toward bringing some semblance of a citizen legislature to the national legislature.
Yes. Well, what was the vote coming out of committee? It was this week, right?
Yeah, they passed on a voice vote. Okay. So right through, that's what we expected. We're actually coming up on Wednesday as well in committee, the full committee.
Full committee.
Yeah, and we were.
And who chairs that?
Goodness, Kelly Kiesling, I believe.
Oh, Kelly. Yeah, Kelly's just he's a great guy. I mean, he really is. Got to tell a funny story on him, man. I hope he doesn't get mad at me if he hears about me talking about him. But he's about, how old is Kelly?
Oh, I'm not going to answer that question. I'll get real trouble.
Probably, I don't know, 70, 72. And but he's a smoker. He's a chain smoker. And we used to be at the old building at the Plaza, Legislative Plaza. And if folks have been in the Plaza, they remember the cafeteria where there's a little, it's like an opening where there's plants out there, and you're way down under the Plaza, but you can still see sunlight and all. And the doors would automatically lock it at 9 p.m. They just would automatically just click lock. Well, he went out there to take a smoke break, and he had left his phone at the office. It was 9 o'clock, at night, and not many people are up there at 9 o'clock at night. He was up there, and he was just out there smoking, and the doors just clicked, locked. Mm-hmm. He had to spend the night outside.
Oh no!
The whole night.
Oh man!
Yes. But he really is a great guy.
He's been awesome in this issue. He signed our pledge like you have. Yeah. To get behind this thing. So
I think he represents 5 counties. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I think I saw
5 counties. Mm-hmm. He championed an issue I always kid him about. We took on the issue of extending the life of a school bus, but the media will never tell you these stories. Stories that save the taxpayers money, the media just ignores them. I don't know why. I guess there's not enough clickbait. But we extend the life of a school bus. It saved the taxpayers. It was estimated at $52 million. So if any school bus drivers are out there, we extended it for, I think it was 3 more years. But it was a battle. I mean, you wouldn't think this is such a fight to get done, but it was a battle. And Kelly, I remember he came to committee, and I believe it was somebody said, "Boy, you just look rough, man." I mean, it's not something you hear in during a session, and man, you look really rough. And somebody said, no, that's just his normal look like that. And but he was just right on that issue right there. But a great guy. I'm sure that y'all will be fine. Because if it gets to the floor, it's going to pass. Now, tell the listeners about what happened in the Senate last year.
Yeah, last session, we hung up a little bit in the Senate committee where we were. We were 1 vote short, so it didn't go forward. This year, new election
No
cycle.
Democrats are voting for it on the Senate, correct?
Not so far.
Okay.
Yeah. One is looking at it.
Oh, one?
Yep.
Are you willing to share who it is?
I'll keep
that's
that
fine
in my pocket,
yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, we got it's a shuffling of the deck. We have a new membership committee this year that is very much in our favor. We have a great new Senate sponsor. Of course, Mike Bell was our last sponsor.
Yeah.
And he retired from the legislature. So now we have a local. We have Senator Don White as our lead sponsor.
Oh, good.
On the Senate
Okay.
side. So she'll pick
I
it
didn't
up.
know that.
Chris Todd can
Good.
get it through the House. We'll pick it up there, and we'll get that done. So
Okay.
We're excited.
Well, if folks listening, just compliment Dawn when you see her for taking that issue on. If now you live in Kentucky, correct?
I do.
Yeah. Now, how far did you drive to come to the studio?
Yeah, I taught at church after Mass, and then drove about 4 hours out here, and I was gunning it, Mike. I'm going to make this on time.
You timed it perfectly because I pulled up and I thought, well, I'm going to have Hannah and her friends come up first, and then all of a sudden you're walking in. I was like, well, let's get Aaron to come up first. I've got a couple of school board folks that I don't know if they'll call in or not. Now, how's Izzy doing? Tell the story about Izzy, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's almost a couple years ago now, right? Mm-hmm. So there was just a man in Florida that started walking in Florida.
Yeah.
He was actually a local guy in Tennessee. I'm forgetting what town he was in. But he, on his own, just to raise awareness for term limits on homes. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. to just on his own, he started walking from the furthest most tip of Florida, the Florida Keys.
Yep.
Walking, his intent was to walk the entire length of the continental U.S.
Yes.
to raise awareness for term limits. And we had no idea that the guy was going on
Wow.
until like midway through Florida. We heard about this guy, and the local media picked it up. And of course,
Yeah.
we were always watching for term limits news. And met with him and kind of helped him out for a little while there. And he was booking it. He made it all the way into like Mississippi. He made a little side journey into Tennessee and raised a lot of awareness here.
Yeah.
But he ran into a foot ailment, like a physical problem
Yes.
that threw a wrench and everything. So he's back. I understand. I think he's back roadieing. So he's working with
music
somebody. I think Big and
concerts.
Rich is who he's working with.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Oh,
At least at some point he did.
Dave came up and spoke. John Rich has come up and spoke.
Mm-hmm.
But he got me, I got kind of tickled last year, and he was telling me, I guess he was going through some area near the Florida Everglades and had a tent and camped out. It was at night, and he heard some gunshots or something. And he knew there's something going on at a distance, and some kind of shooting or something. And the cops come pulling up, and they come up on his tent, and he was just in the woods, and cops come up there, and they said he gets out of his tent. I couldn't, imagine 12 o'clock at night, he gets out of his tent. And like, what are you doing out here? He's like, well, I'm walking across the nation for term limits. And he said the cops were like, hey, thank you for doing that, and he says, I just heard gunshots. Don't know where the people went. But it is kind of a neat story. Now, he didn't make it. He was going to go to, what's the furthest tip of, other than Alaska?
Somewhere else in Washington State, way up there, yeah.
And I pulled it up on there. There's some little islands that
right.
The one of the little islands. He was planning on trying to get all the way up there.
Yep.
But anyways, he's been on the air with us. Well, we're going to switch over to Hannah and them. And Aaron, I appreciate what you're doing. Appreciate your group and how much y'all fought for this. And I think with Senator White's help, we're going to get it passed this year.
Yeah. And Mike, we just real quick, I want to appreciate you too. We have a plaque here supporting you as a term limits champion. You have been done so much for our cause, and we appreciate you.
Yeah,
man.
let me get a big photo of that bad boy. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Well, y'all been really supportive of me, and I think y'all used my comments. I talked about my late World War II father and
that was
the
great
greatest
stuff.
generation and
yeah.
what they would think about this nation.
Yeah,
today.
that's on YouTube.
But thank you so much, Aaron. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Have you seen traditional chiropractors or various medical providers but have not found relief?
Dr. Austin Schumann with Horizon Spinal Care.
Experience the difference at Horizon Spinal Care, the only NUCA chiropractor in Middle Tennessee. No twisting, popping, or cracking. A gentle touch and controlled contact on the first vertebra of the neck is designed to restore balance to the entire spine. Call Horizon Spinal Care today at 615-203-5111. Visit us online at horizonspinalcare.com.
When I say VFW, you probably have some visions of a smoke-filled bar with a bunch of old-timers eyeballing you. Well, the Stones River VFW is doing things different. No smoke-filled rooms, no turning prospective members away, and a strong emphasis on camaraderie and community. We believe in instilling our American values in our young people through numerous programs such as Voice of Democracy, Patriots Pen, Scout of the Year, and VFW Teacher of the Year. The Stones River Post intends on becoming a driving force to help, aid, and assist wartime veterans. So if you're one of those veterans with a campaign medal and you want that sense of purpose that you've been missing, then give our recruiter, Andrew Farr, a call at 615-490-5715.
Most people know that their insurance can provide them with coverage for the many life's mishaps. But I can help you also unlock discounts, save money, and get benefits with Farmers Insurance policy perks. Whether we're discussing home or auto insurance, I am here to help you understand these great perks. Call me, Mark Lewis, at 615-625-7070 for a quote, and you can get a whole lot of something with Farmers policy perks.
We are Farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Not available in every state. Only available at select Farmers branded policies underwritten by Farmers Truck or Fire Insurance Exchanges or affiliates.
Mike and Felicia Sparks, owner of the Vanity Zone Salon, want to invite you to stop in for your next haircut or color. Their stylists Michelle, Tori, Tracy, Brandy, Sarah, and Gail offer the best creative cuts and color for all ages, for men and women. The Vanity Zone is located at 732 Nissan Drive in Smyrna, to the right of the Crystals Restaurant. To look and feel your best, visit the Vanity Zone Salon today. Call 615-355-1721 to book your next appointment. Dr. Automotive Auto Repair and Maintenance Mechanic Shop Garage provides car owners in Smyrna, Murfreesboro, Laverne, and the Middle Tennessee area with excellent auto repair services. Deep-rooted experience in serving both foreign and domestic automobiles allows for proper diagnosis in a timely manner. Check them out online at autorepairsmyrna.com, call them at 615-220-0971, or stop on in at 1205 Hazelwood Drive in Smyrna.
Hey Rutherford County, it's Mark from the Safe House. And now the security riddle of the day. What do big box, fake safes, face masks, and Joe Biden have in common? They don't work, and they promise things that isn't true. So don't get a Joe Biden level of security. Come down to the Safe House and see what a real safe looks like. Unlike most of the other safe dealers in the area, we have safes in stock, ready for delivery. And at the Safe House, gun safes are sales tax free. That's right, sales tax free. So drop by the store or go to NashvilleSafehouse.com. That's NashvilleSafehouse.com.
Hi, this is Allie Dowenhauer with Isaiah 117 House. Isaiah 117 House provides physical and emotional support for children awaiting foster care placement here in Rutherford County. We are changing the way foster care begins, and those kiddos are brought to our house to hang out and wait for a foster family, and they're given everything they need. We support foster children, DCS, and foster families here in Rutherford County. Visit us at www.isaiah117house.com or visit our Facebook page, Isaiah 117 House, Rutherford County.
My wife and I enjoy going by Yard Sale Inc. We usually go to both locations, the one in Smyrna as well as the one in Murfreesboro. A lot of times on Saturday mornings we stop by, and their inventory changes weekly, so you never know what you're going to see, and it's mostly open box. The name fits it. It's exactly that. It's a yard sale. If you don't totally agree with the price, the staff is always friendly and nice and willing to work with you.
That's the Yard Sale store in Smyrna at 111 Enon Springs Road West, in Murfreesboro at 204 South Front Street, and online at bestdealintown.com.
All right, we're back. Appreciate Aaron Duquette with U.S. Terminals joining us. Drove all the way down from Kentucky, then he's heading to Nashville to kind of advocate like you young ladies have been doing. So let me start off. We've got Hannah Faulkner. How you doing, Hannah?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good. So you've got here, man, your handwriting maybe is worse than mine. All right, so Turning Point USA.
Yes, sir.
Chapter president and Young Woman for America president?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You going to run for president one day?
Whatever the Lord has for me, just following what he has.
That's good. So we've got Scarlett Starbuck, Williamson County, Turning Point USA vice president. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. We've got Elizabeth Faulkner, Rutherford County, Turning Point USA chapter secretary. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good. How old are you?
I'm 14.
14. So you 15 and 14?
15, 14, 14. Yes,
oh,
sir.
Oh, wow. Now, what got y'all interested in these issues?
I would say for me, since I could remember, and I would say probably the same for my sister as well, since I could remember, my family would always sit us down and we'd watch some sort of news, whether it be Fox News, Newsmax, and after a while, you start to get interested in it and kind of have a sense of like, whew, this is interesting to know what's happening in this world. So that's kind of how I got interested in politics, and then Turning Point came along, but... What about you?
Yeah, so my family moved from California, so we fled the leftist ideologies there, and then we moved here and started to see the beginning of the same issues, and we knew we had to intervene, so my dad ran for Congress, and we'd gotten politically involved.
And your dad is Robbie Starbuck. Okay.
Yes,
well, now, what part of California did y'all live at?
We lived so I was born in Huntington Beach, and then we had moved to Calabasas, so we lived kind of by LA because he was in Hollywood for a while.
Oh, do you like California?
No, I like it better here.
Yeah, do you really? Why do you like it here?
Because the values are better. And,
yes.
I mean, we have more freedoms here and the culture there just got so corrupted so fast.
Yes, yes. So a lot of folks are moving out of California, I guess you're saying. I've got a newspaper I started called TennesseeLedger.com, another one called Issues of Faith. If y'all ever want to write an op-ed or something, just get it to me. But I did a story about, I think U-Hauls are leaving California at a record pace.
Yeah.
You're saying, boy, a lot of turmoil over there though, just with natural disasters and floods and forest fires. And did y'all see a lot of that while you were there?
Definitely. We actually had to evacuate a couple of times because of the fires.
Did you really?
Yes. And I went to a private school there that was pretty liberal, so I saw a lot of the ideologies really early.
Yes. Well, do you think is there, I don't know if the term indoctrination is appropriate, but do you think, do you get that from the teachers? And
1,000%. And it started really young. Like, it was one of the first schools in California to start having stuff. We had speakers come that were like super left, and they were talking about like white privilege and just like race ideologies, gender ideologies, just like as early as possible, kindergarten.
As a young person, I'm just curious about y'all's perspective. I guarantee you there's a lot of listeners that's really curious, because my sons really aren't that interested in politics, even though they've watched Fox News, they've seen CNN and all that. They just didn't really gravitate towards it. What it just seems interesting for y'all young people to really be interested in this. Why do you think things are kind of changing? Because I, as someone that's 56, have seen some radical change just the past 5 years. I've seen drastic change the past 30 years for sure, but the past 5 years, it just seems like it's on just very hyper level with the media spinning things. It's like the rally that y'all put together. But why do you think this is happening? I mean, with your experience coming from California.
I think we're really just at a turning point, which we're all involved in turning point chapters. So it really just, our generation is falling into a lot of these ideologies, and everything's more widespread than it ever has been.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say even at the heart of the nation, our nation was founded on biblical principles and biblical values. And Thomas Jefferson said that how can the liberties of a nation be thought secure when we have forgotten the only firm basis, a conviction in the minds of the people that these liberties are a gift from God. So we as a nation, we rejected prayer in schools in 1963 or 62 it was, but we now with the media have really said we do not want God a part of anything.
Yes.
We do not want him a part of our schools, a part of the media, a part of our churches even. We have churches preaching woke garbage to their children and to their congregation. So it's everywhere, but I really think it starts at the heart of the nation and rejecting God.
Yes. There's a good quote that I usually have my planner with me. I didn't bring my planner, but it's Alex de Tocqueville. I don't know if y'all studied de Tocqueville, but he says, "Not until I went into the churches of America and heard her pulpits flame with righteousness did I understand the secret of her genius and power. America is great because America is good, and if America ever ceases to be good, America will cease to be great."
Yeah.
And he wasn't even from America. He just visited America, and that always stood out to me. But our forefathers, and I tend to agree with you. I think this country was founded on biblical values. Doesn't mean this country is perfect by no means, but you see so many. I mean, I see so many problems as a representative. I hear teachers calling that the student behavior, addiction, things that we would have thought were terrible when I was growing up is just acceptable to today. And so y'all are homeschooled, is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
we are homeschooled. I am actually doing online with Liberty University, so I can graduate college.
So it's kind of like a hybrid type education program.
Basically, and then
I go to Generations Christian Academy, so it's a small school in downtown Franklin. So we live in Williamson County, so
yeah. You like Williamson County?
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, my assistant works over there at well, he's AT&T. I think he's down in Charlotte, but he lives in Franklin. He likes it out there. He's young African American. He's 27. Everybody just loves him to death. But he just chose to be in Franklin. He likes that area, and he says everybody treats him good. Rent's kind of high out there. Gas is high. I think everything else is high. Aren't prices a little higher in Franklin?
Yeah, they are definitely in Franklin.
Yeah, it's I remember Franklin it was nothing like it is today. It's all changed. We've got so much growth. Well, tell the listeners about the rally, because you come up on the radio. No, you weren't able to come to the studio. You called in, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I had called you, or I guess I texted you, and I said, "Well, just meet me at the station." You remember what you told me?
Oh, yes, I couldn't make it there because my dad had a work meeting because I'm 15 and I couldn't
You said,
drive.
I don't have a driver's license, and I thought, I didn't even think about you didn't have drive, because you sound so much more mature.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So what's helped y'all's maturity level? Is it has the private school, homeschooling
I think it all
effect?
starts with the parenting. Truly, it's all, I mean, in order for me to get kids involved, I first have to get the parents involved. So it really all goes back to the parenting and the way that the parents are discipling their children in the way that they should go. So
yes. So y'all, for your father, I met your father. Obviously, he's involved in your life.
Absolutely,
that's
100%.
good. And your father, Robbie's involved.
Yes, definitely. Both of my parents have been very involved.
Is your dad listening right now?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
Probably will listen to it.
If he's listening, what would you want to tell him?
That I'm grateful for just training me up the way I should go. Especially just starting from a young age, just values instilled in people's children. There's a real deficit now of that.
Oh,
so
there
I'm
is.
grateful for that.
What do y'all want to tell your dad if he's listening? Which I know he's listening because he's down the hall.
Beyond grateful for my dad. I mean, everything that both my parents are just phenomenal. I definitely wouldn't be here sitting here with you today if it wasn't for my parents teaching me the Word of God and raising me up to be who I am today. So,
Elizabeth, what do you want to say?
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with Hannah. Our parents have always talked to us like adults, so we've always been more immune to talk to adults the way that we do. Yeah. And so, just thank you to them for just raising us that way.
Yes. Tell us about the rally, and because you called in the show, and I think it was Caleb. Is it Tidwell, the school board?
Caleb Tidwell, yes.
He came up with us, and he had introduced me to you. Where were we at, by the way? Do you remember?
It was I can't remember. It's in Nashville, downtown Nashville, but I cannot remember the name of the.
We were somewhere, and he introduced me to you.
Latinos for Tennessee.
Yeah,
Latino.
Yes. Okay. My friend Lisette Lopez was there, and Francis Rosales, and in fact, the governor was there.
Billy.
Yeah, did you get to meet the governor?
I did, yes, sir.
Great. He's a great speaker, and my friend Raul Lopez. Michelle Garcia, Tommy Vallejos. You know Tommy?
Yes.
Tommy's a great guy, But they've been on the air with me a few times as well. Well, tell us a little bit about the rally.
Yeah, Teens Against Gender Mutilation. We had this rally out of love and compassion. I remember telling you a little bit about the rally before the rally happened, but we had about 500 attendees, a couple hundred protesters come out. One of the protesters actually went viral, over 40 million total views. One of them just screaming into the camera.
40 million views.
40 million, yes, total. Graham Allen posted it. Charlie Kirk, so many others were reposting the rally and the videos from it. But it was just a phenomenal rally to hear Chloe's testimony and these protesters out here screaming at her, calling her a traitor because she left the LGBTQ religious cult. And they're sitting there just badgering her and calling her names, cussing at her while she's sharing her testimony from the lies of the medical industry and from the lies that they gave her, the LGBTQ religion as a whole. So I was very grateful to be able to hold this rally, and I pray that it impacted many as a whole there. So the rally, it's crazy that we're even debating whether or not kids can mutilate their breasts and genitals.
This is crazy.
And we have kids confused on whether they're male or female, and kids now wanting litter boxes in their classrooms.
Well, is that really true? I mean, because I've heard people on both sides, but you have evidence of that?
Yeah, actually, the school in Cannon County, a friend that I have that goes to that school said that there was a child or a student demanding that a litter box be placed in the bathroom. So definitely is happening.
How do you explain this kind of stuff? Is it mental health issues? I mean, do you think?
Absolutely, this is an epidemic of mental illness. I mean, we have an illness of mental dysphoria or gender dysphoria. Yeah,
it's a crisis.
So what's the term they use?
They use gender dysphoria for the kids that are confused on whether they're male or female. That's kind of what they've placed on them.
So where is this? Because I mean, folks like me, even though I'm in politics, I don't understand all this. I mean, I've got other issues I'm focusing on, and that I could argue is more important: affordable housing, drug addiction. I mean, there's so many infrastructure investments, but this is an important issue. Why do you think who's starting this up? Where is this originating at?
I mean, again, it all goes back to rejecting God as a nation. And then we have the media, which is just pumping out leftist ideologies left and right, the educational system. Yeah. But again, it all goes back to rejecting God as a nation. And statistics show that when I think it's a National Library of Medicine that says that during every stage of transitioning, a transgender individual is more suicidal than the general population. And they're more suicidal during every stage of transitioning. That in and of itself just shows that this lifestyle is not the way that we are supposed to be living. So anytime we attempt to change who we were created to be, we're going to be left more suicidal and more depressed, because that's not how God intended us to be. So
Yes. Lot of wisdom right there. A lot of wisdom. It reminds me that Scripture, out of the mouth of babes, and with it Psalm 8:2, it is just kind of crazy. Some of the things I see are just, I don't know how to. I mean, my father would have called it mental illness. My mother would have called it mental illness. And today, I think we just try to be accepting of and tolerant, I guess, But how's the media been? How do you think the media has portrayed a lot of this? Mainstream media.
Yeah, everywhere. I mean, just like you just said, they call us, us as Christians or conservatives, the hateful, bigots. And that's not true at all. Loving someone is to tell them the truth. And the truth is you cannot change your sex. It defies science, it denies nature, and it denies reality. But hating them is the exact thing that the left and the medical industry and the media is encouraging. It's sending them down this path of destruction to where statistically in 7 to 8 years post-surgery, they're more suicidal and more depressed than they were prior.
Yes. Well, mental health, it's a serious issue now. We hosted, my assistant, and I'd love for y'all to come up and come to the office sometime and just kind of hang out with us and maybe other lawmakers throughout committees. But we hosted an event, a mental health opioid roundtable at my church, Parkway Baptist, about 3 years ago. It was well attended. We had about 110 folks there, and Tennessee Mental Health Cooperative was there. Tennessee Mental Health and Substance Abuse was there. Judge Barry Tidwell, Dr. Brian Terry, Senator Don White, the former Mayor Bill Ketron, and others were in attendance, and both school superintendents. And I remember asking the late Dr. Linda Gilbert, because she passed away sadly after she wrote me this. She wrote me this letter, and she passed away a few weeks after. And I was asking Linda Gilbert. She was school director of Merciful City Schools. I said, if there's one silver bullet, one thing, because I can only do so much as one person. I can only do so much. I mean, you can only do so much, but we can do something. And I said, what's one thing that we could do? And she said, Mike. She said, well, I'll tell you what. Let me just pull up this letter, because this letter is, I've been reading this letter off at the General Assembly, read it in education, read it to so many folks that's dealing with, whether it's education or children with behavior problems. Let me find this letter. I'm just gonna read this letter off. Here's the letter, and I want folks to realize how serious this is. She says, Mike, good evening. I apologize for being so delayed in responding. She says, please thank Representative Sparks for reaching out. Yes, more funding for counselors will certainly help in the area of social emotional issues we're seeing. Another area is social workers. They are vital in many school districts, not able to fund them. I also think it would be helpful for him and other legislators to talk with school superintendents about the issues we're seeing in very young children. Now, here is what is that I find very concerning. Then she says, the behaviors of our 6 to 9 year olds are like nothing we've ever seen before. They are disorderly, disruptive, and aggressive. And while we're bringing all of our resources into play, there is no place for these children to go be assessed and treated. I feel very good about what the Department of Education is trying to accomplish in this area, with emphasis on the whole child. And I think that's critical, speaking of the whole child, not just partial child. I'm hopeful that Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse will work alongside them to address the upper tier of children for whom there seems to be no answers. This letter was wrote 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And when I was first elected, the prison budget was about $600 million. Now it's $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion. And there's a book of lobbyists in Nashville, and I think some people don't like me talking about this, but it's a book of lobbyists. And I think it's 68 pages, and it's 5 people per page. And there's not one person in there that's speaking technically about these issues, because what's going to happen with some of these kids that really concern me is they're going to make terrible decisions. They're going to wind up juvenile detention. They're going to wind up in prison. There's a strong correlation. And when you go back and study this issue, which I have, a lot of it is the family unit.
Yes.
The family unit is that foundation.
Yep.
Is that rock. And I'm not saying folks that have been raised up in church, because I've seen it in my own family. I've seen people make bad decisions. But when you don't have a father, critically a father, the trajectory of having problems is so serious. And as a society, it's 28,000 to incarcerate somebody.
Yeah,
28,000.
Exactly. Actually, that's something that Chloe Cole mentioned at the rally. Someone asked her, "Do you think that this, this issue that we're having here with, mental illness and gender dysphoria and these kids wanting to become the opposite sex, does it have something to do with the home, their home life, or their family unit?" And she said, "Yes, exactly. Usually, every single time that someone wants to become the opposite sex, is because that there's an issue with a relationship in their family. Their father's not there, or their family is just not." The way that God intended it to be. Just like you said, family unit between one man and one woman, which is the bedrock and foundation for any thriving society. So in order for a family to thrive, in order for children to thrive, they must have that family unit between one man and one woman. And this is why it's so destructive.
Yes. Have you ever studied, I know this is, as young as y'all are, you ever studied Ephesians 6:12?
Yes.
For we wrestle not among flesh and blood.
Yes, I was just reading that the other day.
In heavenly realms.
Yep.
I do think a lot of these battles are spiritual.
Absolutely.
And I may
100%.
get criticized for that. I've seen fake news, and it's going to get worse. If you studied, Jackson, what's it called? It's the deep fakes. Deep fakes. I don't know if y'all studied that in school. We studied. I'm back in MTSU, learning communication. And in fact, we had a cancel culture portion. We had some of the areas of deep fakes, and deep fakes are, do you remember seeing the good example, in my opinion, would be, you remember that AOC and that Matt, is it Gates?
Matt Gates, yes.
Right. Did you see where they were talking on the House floor, and it was talking about potted plants and what they're going to plant out front?
Oh,
Did you see that? I mean,
yes.
it was comical, but that'd be a good example of a deep fake.
Okay.
But they can do this with AI technology. That is so succinct that even the lips even look like they're even saying those words. And I got to talk to Tim Burkett. You met Tim?
I don't think I have. No.
I think it's pronounced like Burchett out of East Tennessee Congress. You know, the one that wears the Carhartt jacket.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, great guy. And I seen him at the General Assembly about 6 weeks ago, and I was talking to him about it. He was just kind of laughing about it. But the media, I've seen the media. I've been attacked. Now, I'll tell you what they've done to me. I just made the comment probably 6 years ago. They were flying the gay pride flag in Nashville on Dedrick Street. I mean, if you want to fly a flag, fly at your house, fly at your own personal business. But these are light poles paid for by taxpayers. Well, I just made the comment on Facebook, and this was like May. Okay. Well, I had an election. I had what you call a primary. That was, I guess, August the 2nd. Well, the reporter, and I happen to like this reporter. I'm not going to say his name, but he is with the Tennessean. And but I do like the guy. I think the guy's genuine, but he has producers that tell him to go. It's like a mafia hit. Hey, go take that guy out right there. Go smear him. And that's what they'll do. This is what's made me go back and study journalism because of this kind of stuff. So I knew they were up to something. I knew something was going on. It was the night before election. And so usually that ain't a good sign. So I emailed him, and I like a quote by Dr. King. And Dr. King made the comment. He says, our lives begin to end when we become silent about the things that matter.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I said, go read that. And then I said, read Genesis 50, verse 20. And I never finished it. I just said, read Genesis 50, verse 20. Do you know what Genesis 50, verse 20 says?
What is it?
It says, for what you meant for evil, God meant for good. Well, guess what happened the next morning? I'm on the front page. They tried to smear me, tried to call me Islamophobic and homophobic, and surprised they didn't call me arachnophobic. You know what that is, don't you?
Oh, yes.
Fear of spiders.
Yeah.
And they didn't have that in there. But I mean, that full front page, Daily News Journal, trying to smear me. I mean, I was like, whoa, how's this going to play out? Well, guess what happened?
What happened?
I jumped 20 percentage points.
Wow.
I come in at 80%.
Wow.
Give God the glory for it. I'm not saying it bragging. I mean, the Lord took care of me.
Yeah.
But I do like the reporter. And so I'm not, it's just, I couldn't do a job like that going against my principles. But the media, even my professors, seen what they were doing to me on another issue. I told another issue like 4 years ago. He says, man, what the media's doing to you is unethical. I said, well, now you know why I'm here, don't you? He goes, yes. And he was just shocked that this is playing out, you know. I think do we have a caller? Okay, we don't. I think there's somebody that calls in to check the time all the time. But let's take a quick break. Okay. Jackson's giving us that little motion, and we'll be right back.
Have you seen traditional chiropractors or various medical providers but have not found relief?
Dr. Austin Schumann with Horizon Spinal Care.
Experience the difference at Horizon Spinal Care, the only NUCA chiropractor in Middle Tennessee. No twisting, popping, or cracking. A gentle touch and controlled contact on the first vertebra of the neck is designed to restore balance to the entire spine. Call Horizon Spinal Care today at 615-203-5111. Visit us online at horizonspinalcare.com.
Most people know that their insurance can provide them with coverage for the many life's mishaps. But I can help you also unlock discounts, save money, and get benefits with Farmers Insurance policy perks. Whether we're discussing home or auto insurance, I am here to help you understand these great perks. Call me, Mark Lewis, at 615-625-7070 for a quote, and you can get a whole lot of something with Farmers policy perks.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Not available in every state. Only available select Farmers branded policies underwritten by Farmers Truck or Fire Insurance Exchanges or affiliates.
Dr. Automotive Auto Repair and Maintenance Mechanic Shop Garage provides car owners in Smyrna, Murfreesboro, Laverne, and the Middle Tennessee area with excellent auto repair services. Deep-rooted experience in serving both foreign and domestic automobiles allows for proper diagnosis in a timely manner. Check them out online at autorepairsmyrna.com, call them at 615-220-0971, or stop on in at 1205 Hazelwood Drive in Smyrna.
Hey Rutherford County, it's Mark from the Safe House. And now the security riddle of the day. What do big box, fake safes, face masks, and Joe Biden have in common? They don't work, and they promise things that isn't true. So don't get a Joe Biden level of security. Come down to the Safe House and see what a real safe looks like. Unlike most of the other safe dealers in the area, we have safes in stock ready for delivery. And at the Safe House, gun safes are sales tax free. That's right, sales tax free. So drop by the store or go to NashvilleSafehouse.com. That's NashvilleSafehouse.com.
AFFI is Middle Tennessee's premier choice for pest, wildlife, and moisture control. They specialize in those difficult and unique cases. You can reach them by phone at 615-300-2395. That's 615-300-2395. Or stop in at 200 Glenrose Lane in Smyrna.
This is Allie Dowenhauer with Isaiah 117 House. Isaiah 117 House provides physical and emotional support for children awaiting foster care placement here in Rutherford County. We are changing the way foster care begins, and those kiddos are brought to our house to hang out and wait for a foster family, and they're given everything they need. We support foster children, DCS, and foster families here in Rutherford County. Visit us at www.isaiah117house.com or visit our Facebook page, Isaiah 117 House, Rutherford County.
All right, we're back talking some pretty wild stuff. I'd have never thought 5 or 10 years ago or 20 years ago I'd be talking about these issues. Hannah Faulkner, we've got Hannah Faulkner with Turning Point USA chapter president, Scarlett Starbuck, and Elizabeth Faulkner. And I've got the father. I want him to say a few words. You proud of your young daughters here?
Just a little bit there, bud.
Yes. What's been the key, man, to raising such successful young people?
I think the key to parenting, and I will tell you in a heartbeat that I feel like a failure every day. I'm not depressed about it, but I'm constantly looking for better ways to be a better father and better husband and mentor to my children. But be honest, man, just talking to them. Yeah. I've never talked to my children like they're children. I've always talked to my children in a forward-thinking way. When they're 10 years old, I talk to them like they're 20. I talk to them about money. I talk to them about the political and religious and spiritual issues. I'm a firm believer that the Old Testament is full of religion and politics. And so I'm a believer that God put religion and politics together. So what is man to separate them? And people will say, well, keep your religion out of politics. Well, I'll say, well, keep your religion out of politics. Yes, exactly. And the left is constantly telling us, but what's actually happening in the United States of America right now, the left and the Democrats are forcing and cramming their religion down the throats of the American people. And so, how do we do it? Me and my kids, we talk about religious and political issues every day. People don't want to talk about them because it makes them mad, but in reality, everybody has a religious view and everybody has a political view. It touches everything, every area of every person's life, and so that's what people get so hot about it. But man, since I can remember, my kids, we've sat down and watched a little bit of news here and there, and I've said to my kids a million times that Jesus is in the headlines every day.
Yes. What do you say about that, Hannah?
Oh, absolutely. And I remember you said something about, we don't fight against flesh and blood. We fight against,
Ephesians 6:12.
My dad actually said this at the rally. The protesters are not our enemy. They're not our enemy at all. Satan, the one that is deceiving them, is our enemy. So.
Well, how do you love folks though that are throwing hate at you so hard?
Well, the reason why we're having this rally, again, is because we love them and because we have compassion for them. We do not want to see them go down.
Well, tell the listeners what happened to little Chloe. What's Chloe's last name?
Chloe Cole.
Yeah.
Chloe Cole.
Okay.
Yeah. So
tell the folks what happened to her.
Yeah. When she was 13 years old, the medical industry put her on testosterone and puberty blockers.
So her parents said they're cool with this at that time.
Yeah, I'd like to step in and say a couple things about this. So, Chloe Cole's, she will tell you by her own testimony that she felt like her chest didn't develop as much as some of the other girls. She got teased by some of the other girls. About the time that she was 10 or 11 years old, she started, getting hooked on Instagram. By her own testimony, she'll tell you she got hooked on Instagram and started comparing herself to the look of other little ladies, and then she got sexually assaulted in school. And she will tell you firsthand that she came to the conclusion that being a woman was going to be a painful experience. And so with that insecurity and being on Instagram, she said that's when the LGBTQ movement, the cult, the religion, began to lure her in and give her that security and convinced her, well, you're just a boy, you need to be a boy. Wow. And so, kids are looking for answers, and that's why this has got to be illegal nationwide. If you can't buy beer, you can't buy cigarettes, then you don't need to be cutting on your genitals. It's that simple. It's that simple. And the amount of testosterone that they're giving these little girls, what's going on is people really don't realize what's happening. The amount of testosterone that a young lady has versus a young man is 5 to 10 times less. And so when they're pumping these little girls full of this testosterone, it wrecks their libido, it wrecks their uterus, it makes them grow facial hair, it makes their voice deeper. It really, honestly, I'm a Christian, so I have my Christian worldview, but you don't need Jesus and you don't need religion. You just need to follow the science. The human body, the male was created to be dominant testosterone, and the female body is dominant estrogen. It's that simple. Follow the science, and let's do what makes sense.
Yeah, I know you were going to mention something about how they called you a homophobic, transphobic, and that was something that they came out as for our rally is because we're an anti-trans rally. But my response to that is, how can we be anti something that doesn't exist? Now, the people exist. We acknowledge that the people exist. We know that they exist. But that term, transphobic, transgender, does not exist because you cannot change your gender. It denies science, nature, and reality. And that was something that we were really passionate about for the rally is, this is not an anti-trans rally because transgender does not exist. We love the people. We're compassionate toward the people. And that's why we're having this rally again, like I said, is because we love them. Yeah. And we don't want them to go down this path.
It's hard to love your enemies. And forgiveness is I've learned this when I get older. When I was y'all's age, I wouldn't have been forgive nobody. But I've learned to forgive those and that's come against me. And a lot of them don't. It's like even Jesus said that, ask for forgiveness and while he's nailed on the cross, But I applaud y'all's passion for coming up. Now, what is it? You told me you face some persecution, obviously, with going into some coffee shops and things like that. Will you share some of that?
Yeah, so actually recently after the rally, I went into a coffee shop, and I didn't even know that these people knew who I was, but I walked up there and ordered my food, and I right after I was about to leave, they said, Hannah, we know who you are. We heard about your rally, but you need to leave that horrible organization that you're with. It's a horrible racist organization. So
Yes, I'm getting a picture of your dad.
No worries.
But I applaud. I mean, here's what's so cool. Here's what is so cool. A lot of times I see a lot of women who will step up when men are silent. I had a bill, no, we've only got about 30 seconds. I had a bill up this week, would have saved $22 million when I proposed it 10 years ago, but it froze the sheriff's pay raise, mayor pay raise, constitutional officers, and I had about 5 taxpayer-funded lobbyists work against it. The media will never tell you these stories. I've got an op-ed coming out. It's gonna piss a lot of people off, but read it this week. Thank you, girls, and thank you, Father, for being up here.
Thank you.